Last from SSWTV. I'm here with Scott Allen at the Pluralsight Summit in Salt Lake City in Utah. And Scott has been very kind to lend some of his time to talk to us about a couple of things. But the first thing we're going to cover is how did Scott get to where he is? We all know that he sits sort of at the top of the Pluralsight tree and produces amazing content. But it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't all peachy and easy and smooth sailing. So I want to ask Scott, what were the things that you can recognize in hindsight that got you to the place where you are today, in terms of both authoring, but also other things, your speaking engagements and all of those things that is what you are today?
I found out in college, by the way of a failing grade or two,
All right.
that there were certain methods of instructions that suited me personally very well, and certain methods that were just not engaging, or I honestly just couldn't comprehend the topic. While the other people in the classroom actually seemed to do okay, I struggled quite a bit. And I actually spent a lot of time, I would say, throughout my 20s, thinking back to those failures and just thinking about, how do I learn things? How do other people learn things? What are the best way to teach things? And it actually interested me so much that it was one of the reasons I started writing. And back then, before blogs and all of that, I would try to write for magazines like Dr. Dobbs.
MSDN News.
Right. Yeah. And I would think about, what is the best way to explain topics to technical people? What would be the way that I would want to learn it? Like, how could I explain it to myself so that I would understand it better? And I just think a lot of experience about thinking about learning and thinking about teaching has helped me do Pluralsight videos.
So did you always know you were going to be an author? Like, was that out from the outset? Because my impression is that you started out as a geek, like all of us, like a technical person. So how did you decide that teaching was the one thing you wanted to do rather than code the next awesome Facebook, for example?
I think I've always liked helping people, so it started on a small scale, talking to other developers and then going into writing, and then eventually starting to do things at like user groups and conferences, which is where I got involved with Pluralsight. Actually, before they made videos, they did actual classroom training, and I was at a conference, I remember, with Fritz Onion once, and we talked a little bit. And a few months later, he sent me an email and said, "Would you like to teach classes for Pluralsight?" Right. And I thought, wow, this is terrifying. I can't imagine actually standing up in front of people and talking for hours about things. You would really have to know it cold. But it happened. I started teaching classes, and I found out that I found out two things. One, it was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed teaching people and helping them and seeing them learn something and actually start building something. It was an incredible thrill. And number two, it was also incredibly exhausting. It was not something I could do full time. But I went into this mode, I guess, between 2005 to 2008, where I would teach maybe 5 or 6 classes a year. But I continued as pretty much a full-time employee at a company writing software and doing development, which I think is still important today, actually. But then Pluralsight made the transition to videos, and I found that very difficult at first, doing videos. My first video took forever to finish. I hit record so many times and threw stuff away, and I was getting so frustrated. I didn't think I'd ever make it, actually. I thought it wasn't going to be for me, and I was going to be a failure at this, but it worked out. Still today, though, even the process of making videos, I might spend, occasionally I'll spend like a dedicated week just working on recording. But quite often it's a part-time thing, maybe 2 to 3 days a week. And I still find it's not something that I can do every day. I enjoy creating things, I enjoy building things. Certainly building a course and making videos is creative, and you're building something, and it's wonderful to finish a course and go back and look at the finished product, and it's a great sense of accomplishment. But again, it's one of those tasks I just couldn't do full time.
I can completely relate to that, especially the first course. Wow, there's a reason there's a very few gets through the audition process, but even fewer gets through than actually produce the first course. So but what I'm hearing you saying is that you found something you were passionate about and you went for it. And I think that's really important, that you find this one thing that just gives you an itch or gives you something you want to do more. So yeah, I can certainly relate to that. And I think many people will sort of go, okay, I'm in a job, but am I actually doing the thing that I love doing? So if you can combine the two, awesome. But otherwise, look for something that makes you tick.
Absolutely.
Now, we've talked about how you found out what you wanted to do. Now, the other side of the thing is getting experiences is also about failing. And I've never met any successful person that said, nah, I got it right the first time. Just went, and that was it, and I was successful. So what are some of the things that you found that you did or thought of doing or have done that are just, in hindsight, you probably shouldn't have done and would have done differently?
Yes, so a couple things come to mind, but one story is that I've been working with a company that sells software to hospitals in the United States. I've been working with them for the past 15 years.
Right.
I started there as a full-time employee. When I started teaching, it became more of a contractor relationship, but I still put in about 80 hours a month with them, building software, which is great, and working with other developers. I think that's really important for people that want to do instructions and teach. But anyway, back in 2002, we started building a product with C#. And at that time, I was really into object-oriented programming. Everything has to be objects and classes, and you design a nice class hierarchy. Anyway, we were building this product that was sort of a business intelligence product before the word business intelligence became big. But it's basically going through hospital data, finding interesting things, and presenting data to users. Anyway, the way I decided to build this was to use lots and lots of class inheritance. And and actually it was the second iteration. So what we did was we got something working pretty quickly, and then went back and looked at the code and said, oh, this is common, this is common, this is common. Okay, let's extract this into a base class, and then have this as a derived class, and have this as a derived class. And you know what? It was such a mentally fun job to do this that I spent 2 weeks, if I remember correctly, like 2 to 3 weeks building this class hierarchy and thinking how beautiful it was and how polymorphism was working so well. But I tell you what, coming back to that code, that product is still in existence. Right. Coming back to that code 10 years later, I just want to go back in time and throttle myself and saying, you have built the most unmaintainable code in the world. Because now, new developers need to add a feature into their product, and it's like, where in this huge tree of classes do I even begin to touch stuff? It's hard to debug. It's hard. Yeah, it's terrible. So that was definitely a failure, but I learned from it.
But I don't know. Any true geek that loves their craft, I think, has a similar experience. They go, this is beautiful. And then you turn to the business value and it's just not there. Right. And I think that happens all the time. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good lesson. Absolutely. Make sure you keep in touch with reality, I guess, and future maintainability in this case. Now, so the last thing in this section that I wanted to cover is it's no doubt, everybody knows that you've had great success with Pluralsight, and that's because you create awesome content. I have seen lots of your courses, and I have subscribed to your teaching as well, and it works. I learned Angular from one of your courses. I got my foot in there, and I went for it. But how has it changed your life? Has it changed your life in any way, being suddenly, maybe not the figurehead of Pluralsight, but certainly one of the key people that they promote as part of their marketing campaign? And how has it changed your life? I had someone wanted me to ask you, do you sleep on a bed of $100 notes? And I thought, no, it's a bit inappropriate. But people have these thoughts of, does it change your life in any fundamental way?
It has, and there's obviously been a big financial impact, and that makes life a little bit easier. It just does. But I don't sleep on a bed of $100 notes. I'm actually a very financially conservative person, so I haven't done anything crazy. But I have tried to plan things out for the future and for my kids. And Pluralsight has been a life-changing experience, no doubt about it. It's been wonderful, and it's very exciting to see this company. I was at the original authors retreat when there was 9 of us in the basement of a house, talking about making online video courses. And now this year there's, I think, 150 authors here and 500 total. So it's just amazing how far this has grown. Yes.
Huge, yeah.
And yeah, congratulations to Aaron Sconard and Keith and Fritz for building this company. It's a great vision they had, and one of the things that impressed me about Aaron is when he made this decision that this was going to be the future, he completely got a laser focus on this and got everyone around him to focus on this, and I think that's why it's successful.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate your time,
Sure.
and I'll see you next time.
Did you get all that? We'll take the SSW TV quiz and test your knowledge now.